We all understand the type of climate that we're dealing with. We're dealing with multiple offer situations.
I'd love to know sort of what's your why? What makes you tick? Why are you so successful?
Have a dialogue with your lawyer. Have a dialogue with your agent.
Both sort of passionate about sort of what we do.
Again, vet your agent to make sure that they're experienced and they're local. I like that idea.
No excuse to miss it on Saturdays from 8 to 9.
That's right.
WBZ.
And now, the show that gives you the latest and most relevant housing market news. Real Estate Radio Boston with financial expert Rick Scherer and legal professional Ali Alavi.
The prime rate today is at 3.25%.
So that's the rate that it's going to cost me as a banking institution to borrow money from someone else.
Right. And what banks will do, if I go out and get a home equity line of credit, or, it's based on the prime rate. The prime rate's been, like I said, at 3.25% for a while. Now, in 06 and 07, that was at 8.25%. 8.5%, I think, was the highest it did. And then when the market crashed, you saw the Fed just take that rate and drop it down to 3.25%. Hasn't moved off of that. So what the Fed is saying is that they're not really in a hurry to move that rate higher. And what they typically use the prime rate for is to control inflation. And if you listen to CNBC or listen to BZ, they talk about that all the time, that the Fed will come out and say, we're really not concerned about inflation right now. When inflation starts to become roaring its ugly head, is how we call it, well, the bond market hates inflation. So what the Fed will start to do is they'll start to move that off of the floor at 3.25% and start moving up, typically by 0.25% every time the Fed meets. They'll start moving that around.
And let's face it, I think they're not afraid of the inflation because of the fact that we're still having these hiccups in our economy. Yeah, we're seeing some level of recovery. We're seeing appreciation in real estate, so on and so forth.
Once the initial first week of decent weather started, the floodgates opened for us. Right. I mean, people were calling. They were ready to put their homes on the market. They were ready to start looking. And we really didn't. It kicked back into where we left off, and it hasn't slowed down.
Are you seeing that a lot of the individuals that are that are listing their property, are they sort of moving up? Are they buying another property? Are they sort of moving into the city? What's the flavor that you're seeing?
We're really seeing a little bit of everything. We're seeing people who are downsizing. We're seeing a big baby boomer generation looking to find ranch homes, and there's just not a lot of them.
Right.
We see a lot of first-time home buyers in the marketplace, which is really something that we never stop seeing. What we don't see is a lot of new construction. In our area, there's just not a lot of land left in our area, and you don't see a lot of new construction coming on it. We're starting to see it kind of come from the city and moving west. You want to be on in the fall, either right before the Labor Day or right after the Labor Day. You don't want to be coming on late into the fall. The fall market is a short market. It's like the summer market, because once we hit November, in the middle of November, it starts to kind of wean down for the holidays. And during the holidays, people really get out of the game. So I think that if you have a home that has a pool or really cold central air, don't wait. Get it on now. But if you're looking at the fall market, you do want to start your planning process now. You want to start really understanding what needs to be done to get the home ready.
Rick, start off with the first one.
I don't know, turning your garage into something other than putting your car into it. Maybe like a home gym.
Have you seen that?
Yes. Actually,
Josh,
I have a very good client friend who turned their two-car garage into a home gym. The woman who is from Milford, actually, her name is Leanne Blind. She's one of the world's strongest women, and she lives in Milford, Mass. She turned her entire two-car garage into a unbelievable setup. Is it an issue with resale?
Yeah, do you think it's a turnoff?
Absolutely.
Right.
When you market a home and you're advertising it in MLS, unless you disclose the garage is not usable, when somebody comes in, especially it's something if it's permanent or is causing there's no future use for that garage. We've seen people add in, little decks inside or add, even certain type of stair setups. People want a two-car garage if they're paying for a two-car garage.
Right.
If you're going to discount the price, maybe not, but yes, it is a
I like this one. Well, first of all, this is almost a two-parter.
It is, yeah.
First of all, we've got an above-ground pool that is a sort of a turn-off, and then we'll skip right to the 7 as well, so I'll get you. But in-ground pools is a turn-off as well. What's your thoughts?
It's a 50-50. There's going to be people who want a pool, okay, and it's a short season in New England, so it's not something that's a huge requirement. You don't need it. It's a nice luxury if you want it. There are some people who spend $50, $60, $100, $1,000 on pools, and if you're selling a home and those people don't want the pool, they're not going to care about the value you placed into that pool setup. It may be gorgeous, but it's going to be lost on them. And from an appraisal standpoint, and an appraiser can speak to this better than I can, you're not going to get dollar for dollar or even close for that. So.
I think above ground pool I can see, because I think it's an eyesore and it takes up so much of your backyard, and it's just I don't know.
It's nice for the homeowner because it's a much more inexpensive pool approach, okay, and it's much easier to take down and remove to neutralize the property.
And on in-ground pool, I would say liability. No, don't you think? I mean, don't you think people with kids,
there's still insurance issues, and there's still the permitting issues and fencing and making sure you meet town regs. So there's a lot more involved.
So what we want to talk about is if, going through these real estate transactions, a lot of emotions, especially as you get towards the end of these transactions. And we want to get Ali, when you're sitting at that closing table, you must hear a ton of problems and issues and all that stuff come to.
I think we all have our own fair share of stories with regards to how transactions have been potentially could have been derailed. So one of the things that I think, Josh, one of the things that we see, not all the time, but we've seen quite often, is the buyer gets the opportunity of doing a walkthrough at the time of the closing. Commonly that's scheduled, 24 hours prior to the closing?
Yes.
What are some of the stories that you have with regards to issues, and I'll tell you how we've solved them.
We could do a whole segment on this.
That's what we're doing.
One of the things that comes up, I'd say the most, is that seller has left items in the property. And they can be as simple as we were just talking about hangers in a closet.
Hangers in a closet.
Okay, yeah, and making sure that we don't react to that. Or as significant as 15 gallons of old paint that doesn't match any room or exterior color in the home. Okay, and so dealing with those issues, going back to kind of realizing that you're buying a home and this is one little bump at the very end, but let's work through this and keep everything in perspective as to what we're doing.